All right, we starting the show?
Yeah.
Brandon, were you good to start the show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start the show. Listen, progeny of the wanton strumpet, this is episode 345 of Insert Credit, where you're here, and I'm here, and this horrible buzzer is here, so goddammit, let's make a show.
Whoa! Whoa!
I'm Alex Jaffe in The Matrix, but in Zion, you can call me Cartridge.
What's Zion?
That's the world outside of The Matrix.
Have you not seen The Matrix?
I have. I don't like put the randomly named things into my lexicon. I don't know.
I mean, let's just be honest. As a bunch of white people here, it's not a random name. I mean, but also I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't understand the Matrix lore. I don't care. Yes, I've seen the first one and I've seen the last one.
There's one city left in the world. It's down near the Earth's core where it's still warm. It's called Zion. That's the line you are free to forget.
I believe you. I'm Frank Cifaldi, and my name. So I have to have a name in The Matrix and then in like the real life city.
Yeah, what's like the cyberpunky name you go by? That's like one word.
Oh boy, like so examples would be like Neo, right?
Yeah, or Morpheus.
Got it.
Or Trinity. Oh,
that's a pretty good name. I'm gonna go with Teabag. My name's Teabag.
Oh, that's pretty good. Does the T stand for anything?
No, but the A in the bag is of course a 4.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, they don't do that in the Matrix, but yeah.
You don't know? Do they spell out their names?
As a person who's watched all Matrix things and even played the video games now, but maybe somebody does.
I'm trying to be more real with what the Matrix would really be. And then my name in Zion, is that where I'm like a naked baby and a naked guy in a cocoon?
No, that's the Matrix.
Okay. Well, I thought the Matrix was the virtual thing.
Well, the Matrix is, it's two things.
Neo is Mr. Anderson inside the Matrix, and outside the Matrix, he's Neo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so in Zion, then I'm Teabag.
You're Teabag, yes.
Got it. And then in the Matrix, I'm just like a normal name.
You're Frank Cifaldi.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like real life. I'm Teabag online, and I shouldn't have outed myself, I guess.
Oh, no. You just doxed yourself.
I just doxed Teabag.
Teabag.
That is how this works.
I'm Tim Rogers, and in the Matrix, I'm Tim Rogers, and outside the Matrix, I'm T-Bone.
Whoa,
man! Now I wish a guy picked a T something.
You don't have a T in your name.
Curse of going first, buddy.
Yeah,
you don't have a T in your name, so you can't do it. That's a joke about how Frank doesn't either. So.
I'm Brandon Sheffield. I'm Brandon Sheffield in the Matrix, and in the outside Matrix, my name is Synergy. So I can say it's showtime Synergy, just like they did in Gem and the Holograms, and nobody'll get it but me because I don't think Gem and the Holograms exist in the world of the Matrix. But I'm bringing it.
I'm pretty sure. Well, the implication of
is that all things?
The lore of the Matrix is that all human culture that we know is in there.
Is there a difference between the Matrix and Ready Player One?
What if it got?
Wait,
what if it got? I think Gem and the Holograms got erased by the
machines,
and the agents, and so I'm keeping Gem and the Holograms alive by calling.
Are you
myself
accusing
Synergy.
The agents of being anti-woke and destroying cartoons that are for girls?
Yeah,
that's not exactly what the Matrix is about, but I appreciate it. So. That's not. They weren't concerned with that when they wrote.
It's showtime, Synergy.
Did anybody here see The Matrix Resurrections, the fourth one?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I saw the first one and the fourth one. I did not see the two between.
Oh man, I bet you felt like probably 90% of the audience felt during that fourth one, huh? Which was, I didn't know I was supposed to watch those other two. I thought they were going to let me not get away with not watching them.
I didn't know the lore of the MMO would feature in this.
or the Animatrix,
Right.
which probably did actually.
Oh, it did. All of it did. It was mystifying how much stuff they included from everywhere in the franchise.
Well, I think I was able to let that movie just wash over me lore wise. Just didn't matter. What I was there for was the theme of it, I guess. I thought it was very interesting that this person made a movie about how they didn't want to make this movie.
Yeah. And now they're making a new one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Warner Brothers is rebooting it. Yeah, without anybody.
Oh, without them involved. Okay,
Without
Right.
anybody from the.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
you don't have to see
okay.
it.
Yeah. That's okay.
It's just
but
IP now.
Also, I mean, the really strong theme of just kind of letting a thing go.
Mhm.
Is the ending was pretty. It kind of felt like a real touchdown football.
We can't let this franchise
Agent
go.
Smith is a playable character in multiverses. It's over.
And it felt like a touchdown football at the end. It felt like here it is, we win, idiot, and then we win, Warner Brothers, you morons.
Yeah, do what you want.
Like they were
made our
dunking a
statement.
touchdown football on top of their head.
It was great. Our first question comes from Ash Parrish from last week's episode, who says, "Give me your dream summer game fest showcase. What games would you show off? Who would be your onstage special guest? Who is your MC?"
Oh, this is a decent question to take seriously. To try to be sincere about.
I'm trying to. Who do I like as a host? Because there have been a few times where I've found a host to be legitimately pretty good and charming. My favorite experiences have been when the host was bad and ridiculous. I don't think that's what we're going for here.
No.
So someone who's good and I watched the PC gaming show Summer Game Fest deal that they did, and those two people they had some amount of cringy dialogue, but it was sort of like everyone's in on it together. Like we know this is goofy, but it wasn't ironic. It was somehow legitimately a little embarrassing, but the people were owning it.
So it wasn't like "Hey gamers," like ironic "Hey gamers."
No.
What was the tone
There
like?
was no irony. It was like doing skits that fell a little flat, but then feeling a little awkward about it. And so it felt fine. It's hard to describe.
So the Brandon Sheffield vision of a Summer Games Fest is kind of awkward, right? Like
awkward.
You're not going for like let's actually have a grown-up show. Like you're going for let's make something a little strange.
That's for me, but I could also see maybe it's better to do like Billy Crystal at the Oscars kind of deal.
I mean, I don't know if that has to necessarily be strange. It could just be people being natural. Being like, this is kind of dumb. And having a decent time with it, just to
it's kind of like we all know that this whole concept is a little silly, so let's try to have fun with it, and sometimes we're gonna fail.
Right, so like don't do like the Joel McHale at the Ubisoft thing where it's like you're all idiots for liking this. It's
definitely
just
not
like,
that.
Yeah, we all know this is silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're gonna try.
Yeah.
But okay, it almost seems like you're intentionally doing like a Growing Pains version of this, right? Like this is the show that starts the process of it becoming good, as opposed to like flipping the light switch and it's good now.
Yeah, maybe so. A little stepping stone.
I'm okay with that as a concept, right? Like let's at least base level admit out loud that this is silly, right? Like let's publicly admit that this is silly and not lean into it, but just get people to understand that so that we can start growing on that.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to directly say that it's silly, but we can. I think we'd want to more imply. I don't know, because I don't want it to be ironic, and I think if we say I know all this stuff is silly, then it just kind of gets us off on the wrong foot. So I feel
this
like
seems like a very delicate balance.
It is
like
delicate
it seems
balance.
like you found an accident and you want to replicate it.
Yes, please. No, but it didn't feel accidental. You should watch it. Watch a little bit of it, Frank.
Absolutely not.
Dang it.
Well, you want to know which this is a showcase that sort of impressed me last year was Devolver did one. Did you all see that one?
I don't think I saw it last year.
I mean, this one is perhaps actually worth looking into. But
was it the one where they just had all the practical effects and just all the really weird nonsense?
Yeah, it was very, very scripted and extremely, extremely produced and very punchily written. And there was it was a game reveal showcase that kind of revolved around a sort of a frame story concept of like a lifetime achievement award for some imaginary mascot character from the 8-bit era and whatnot. And there was some AI jokes in there where it was like they have a robot that can make any game using AI, and here are the games, and it was the games. And there was some very smart humor in there that was highly critical of the AI industry and such in a fun way. And it had some okay jokes. That's what suffices for a stamp of approval from me. But during the Game Awards, or not the Game Awards, the Summer Games Fest this year, did everybody see, well, you know how there's a Skate 4 being developed by EA right now, and Skate 4 being the game that gamers in the know love to spam the name of in the chat for every video game reveal event for the past 10 years or so. They're in the Nintendo Directs, they're in the Sony things, right? They're always asking for Skate 4. I don't know where the meme came from, but it's been a meme. EA recently confirmed they are making a new Skate game. And for their Summer Games Fest trailer, they actually had a genuine comedy sketch starring Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave, who's a huge skater in real life. He's a skater guy. So it wasn't the best written sketch he was ever in. But I saw that and it started making me think, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Remember the tunnel we entered around Xbox 360 era, where they started getting micro celebrities to come up and call you losers, right? But seeing Tim Robinson up there delivering a bona fide I Think You Should Leave sketch that is a slightly, not fully final draft. They didn't give him time to finish it. But I think he likes to sit on those things for years. But seeing that and being like, oh, we might be close,
My very quick answer, actor or actress, maybe younger, who genuinely is into this stuff and would feel honored to host it.
Get Sam Richardson.
I thought you were going to
Sam Richardson, yeah.
I thought you were going to end that, Frank, with a name.
Yeah, I thought you were going to end. Just a thought.
I don't know them actors anymore. The one that comes to mind for me is, I don't know, Henry Cavill. Doesn't he like games?
Henry Cavill could do it, dude. He could and would.
That's not a bad call necessarily.
Yeah, I mean that's.
My reluctance was, did we cancel him? I can't remember.
No, it was.
Did he do something, or was that movie just bad?
No,
I think the movie was just bad.
It was the Supermans were bad, and the Witcher show. Having now watched,
I thought you were talking about Argyle.
We're on a little bit of a break here. Oh well, I don't know if I think Argyle is. We're fully into Henry Cavill's Gremlin period. I think, but he still has enormous clout, and I think you could get him to host a game showcase just like that.
I think he would be, like I said, honored. You just get someone who's good at delivering dialogue, who would actually feel honored to be a part of this, and the performance will come out, and it won't be a guy wearing his dad's sport coat or whatever.
So you mentioned Henry Cavill. I immediately think of The Witcher. I immediately think of CD Projekt Red. I think of the Keanu Reeves moment on the Microsoft stage where he came out and was just a very lovely person on stage. And it was wonderful and uplifting to behold this nice guy. Not necessarily doing the best job hyping video games, but it was nice to see a genuine dude. I think of Henry Cavill, I think of CD Projekt Red. I think of how they recently announced they're making 3 new Witcher games and a sequel to Cyberpunk. And so there you go. A showcase where they get him to come out and show the first footage of the new CD Projekt Red Unreal Engine games that they're working on.
Yep. He's not in character. He's just someone who likes video games and is glad to be here.
Just up there hanging out. And he gets to, being a trained actor in addition to a gamer, he could very convincingly present as enthusiastic about all the things.
He could actually be he could deliver the speech that is that boils down to, and now watch this commercial.
Yeah.
But in a way where I might actually pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You could use him to like genuinely intro a new CD Projekt Red thing, maybe a Warhammer project.
Oh, he's the host for the whole show.
Yeah.
Like he's the one who's like, like those Jeff Keighley moments where he just quickly goes through the nominees and winners for the lesser categories or whatever. That's just Henry Cavill now.
Yeah, get him to do the whole Game Awards.
Yeah.
Let's forget about showcases. Get him to host the Game Awards.
Oh, this is about showcases. Sorry. I don't.
Well, no. I mean, either one. I mean, is the Game Awards not a showcase for video games?
Next topic. Why did the Nintendo 64 controller look like that?
I didn't know what they were doing.
Miyamoto's wife.
Yeah, Shannon.
No,
she got in there.
Okay. Because moving a 3D object around in 3D space with a controller was a brand new thing. And so if you pretend, if you can imagine, it's impossible. Like you'd have to have years of meditative practice. But if you can get your mind to a state where you don't automatically have assumptions of what moving in a 3D space on a controller is, you might also come up with the idea of, well, your right dominant hand should be like supporting the weight of the controller and moving the character around and have the trigger on the bottom. That makes sense. So that's exactly where that came from.
Yeah. They did not want to completely eliminate the possibility that they were going to be making a bunch of strictly 2D games as well. And they didn't want to, I'm imagining an industrial designer, with their hands on their hips, just looking at a bunch of sketches and being like, I don't want to have to choose whether the analog stick goes on the top or the bottom of the D-pad in the classic 2-grip design. The PlayStation already existed at the time they were developing the Nintendo 64. They knew about banana grips. Sony invented the banana grips. They knew that a banana grip was the thing. They knew they probably wanted to go with it. They knew that was going to be give Nintendo credit for running with the standard, like saying that's the standard right away, going the banana grip, that's the future. And they went with it, but they just couldn't decide whether they would put the analog stick above or below. And notice that even Sony and Microsoft disagree to this day as to whether the analog stick should go above or below the D-pad. Nintendo didn't want to choose. They wanted people to be able to have, an open grip either way with their thumb in a neutral position. I think it was purely ergonomics in hindsight, a little bit fanatical. And I think the Hody controllers that came out that just had both the analog stick and the D-pad on the same left side were good enough. There weren't enough games where you used the D-pad with your left thumb and the analog stick with your right thumb, even though there probably could have been. That's why it looks like that, in my opinion. I don't know. It's goofy, right?
I just have to imagine they did a lot of prototyping where it was like, just move this ball around in this 3D world kind of thing, and that's just what felt right. To them was having, this very dedicated hand grip with a stick.
Meanwhile, Sega just went ahead and basically within the same month of the release of the N64,
just threw it on the left.
Yeah. So I could see how Nintendo could get there, but I remember playing. Granted, I did play with the Saturn analog pad first. I didn't really understand what the point of it was, but I did use it first. And then I touched an N64 and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't understand this thing.
I think the N64 controller, the design of it comes about almost purely, I guess, because Nintendo was thinking farther ahead than Sega was, for example. I mean, when you really think about it, and this isn't I don't think this is overthinking it, but Nintendo invented the left analog stick and the right analog stick at the same time. They just didn't invent the idea of using both of them at the same time. So they couldn't, guys like Miyamoto in charge of creative decisions over there were like, well, wait, what are 3D video games? Like, what are they about? Am I moving a guy and also moving a cursor? Am I moving a guy in 2D and also moving a cursor? Am I moving a guy in 3D and jumping with buttons? We don't really know yet, and it's up to our developers to figure out what that is.
I do feel like that controller is very much a we don't really know yet, because it looks like a shotgun blast of buttons and icons and inputs, and it's like, what are all these things doing here? How am I supposed to hold this? And I guess the let's leave it. It's a very un-Nintendo like thing to do, to be like, here's a bunch of stuff, see what you can do with it. That's more of a Sega vibe a Nintendo vibe. So I think that's probably why it stands out to people as odd and weird, because it's just not something Nintendo really did a lot of before or since to that level.
I mean, I guess coming off of the Super Nintendo, they were sort of high on the fact that they had hundreds of developers just making all sorts of crazy stuff. And I guess ultimately, my ultimate opinion on the Nintendo 64 controller is that when I first looked at it, I had this vague notion that there's lots of kinds of video games I haven't imagined yet. You know, there's lots of kinds of video games that haven't been made yet. So that's neat. I don't know.
Got that again with the Wii personally, but
didn't
really prove out much.
Nintendo DS as well. Yeah.
Oh, actually, I would say the Wii inspired that idea even more than the N64 did, because the movement was experimental, but you could look at it and understand it immediately. Like you knew it that you got the kinds of thing. It inspired your imagination rather than potentially confounded it.
So basically, Link's crossbow training is a Nintendo 64 controller sequel.
That totally tracks for me. So this week, I went to a Broadway show for the first time since I moved to New York.
Oh, wow.
I went to Hadestown, and I've got the bug now. So I rounded up some investors and lined them up for a musical I'm calling Electric Town, which is about Akihabara 20 years ago. And I want you guys to help me write it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So what are we doing? All I have is the title.
Right, sure. What are you paying? Oh, we have to do it as a question.
Back end points. I'm paying points.
Well, I think before the title, we need to figure out what it's about, and then we'll get a title from there. Because, like, are we playing from the perspective of a vendor? Are we
It's a maid.
Patron? Are we a maid?
You're a maid, 100%.
Okay, I'm a maid. And so we're starting as a maid, and is the maid trying to break in as an idol through being...
her cat got lost, and she's looking for her cat in Akihabara. And she goes on an odyssey to rival Odysseus.
So she's going on an Akihabara odyssey?
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's just such a really good name, but I want to avoid any trademark infringement, so I'm going to change it slightly. We can just call it Super Potatoes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't think Super Potato existed 20 years ago, did it? I don't think it...
Maybe was around in 2004.
I think it had maybe just started. Man, I guess that would get people in there a little more. I don't really want to give them their due, though.
Well, I mean, we're not necessarily spotlighting this. It could be farcical.
I used to call it Super Blow-tato, to be honest, because I just didn't like it because their prices were too high.
Even 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Brandon can back me up on this. I've been a Super Potato hater forever. Super Po-hato.
Couple of tater haters for sure.
Well, I just like the name. That's all I know.
No, it's good because you are the non-Japan visiting expert here. So you speak for the aspirational audience who wants to go there, right?
But I've also never been to a Broadway show, so
Well, I mean, if you've seen an animated,
I lived in New York, I probably would though.
Just imagine an animated Disney film with people in it. That's really all that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like The Little Mermaid, but it's people with legs, not fishtails.
I've been to shows that are not on Broadway.
Everybody just sings everything.
And there's an equal amount of spinning as in the Disney shows as well. People love to twirl.
I've seen one Broadway show since moving to New York.
Oh, which one
was it?
It was the same one Alex Jaffe saw.
Oh, hey. That's the one to see, I guess.
That is the one that everyone tells you to see, yeah. And then you go see it, and you're like, that was the one people told me to see.
Yeah. I had an experience that I went to see it with someone, and afterwards he was like, I wish it was more like the video game.
Oh, shoot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
The video game.
He's like, I didn't like the end. Like, you didn't like the part where Orpheus looked back? That's part of the story.
It's the whole story, yeah.
It's like, I guess I was expecting something more like the game. He said that.
Something subversive.
That's really good.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's actually great. Okay, that's good feedback for this story.
If we're a maid, I feel like a maid could be anywhere though, and so there's got to be some intrigue going on in Akihabara that we need.
She's looking for a cat, and she witnesses a murder.
Okay, there we go. She witnesses a murder, and she has to go through the underground black market of Akihabara that you don't usually see.
The owner of Super Potato is murdered.
Yes, owner of Super Potato is murdered, and the floors of Super Potato that are only staff accessible is where that happens.
And she went up there by accident looking for her cat.
Yeah.
I was thinking more that like the title has nothing to do with the store Super Potato. We acknowledge that it exists, but maybe like potatoes as a concept play into the plot.
Potatoes are not a big Japan food. I mean,
they got potatoes.
Yams, but not like potatoes.
No, they eat jagaimo, shin jagaimo.
They and they have a fried potato. But
I used to throw potatoes and stuff. Not only do they have potatoes in Japan, they have some of the best potatoes I've personally ever had in my life.
They really tumble them in the tumbler to get them all smooth.
Well, some of them, yeah, you get good ones. You get good ones.
I think we could have a song in the musical
fingerling
about that.
Potatoes. They're delicious. Ooh, fingerling potatoes.
I want some songs in this. What's our big show-stopping number?
Oh, it's got to be Idol songs, popular Idol songs from the early 2000s. You're going to have some covers. It could be a jukebox musical with Morning Musume songs, Matsuura Aya songs. You can have some Hamasaki Ayumi, Amuro Namie. You can have some Utada Hikaru. You can have some Boa. I mean, that's not Akihabara music, but actually maybe that makes it better. I mean, Akihabara music would just be like anime theme songs. Maybe there's a dance performed to the Dragon Quest opening march at the end. Good. Maybe it takes place on a Saturday on the launch day of Dragon Quest 8 for the Sony PlayStation 2.
Now we're talking.
How about that?
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I don't think so.
That's definitely more what I had in mind.
Yeah. So it's and then she's looking for her cat on November 27th, 2004.
And she's the only person in Akihabara who hasn't played Dragon Quest.
Yeah. Or I don't know. Maybe she hasn't. She's constantly referencing Dragon Quest.
Oh, sure.
Oh, my God.
Maybe her cat is named Erdrick.
Yeah, her cat's name is Roto-chan. Yeah. And there's a character who keeps popping up to point out that the music was composed by a war crime denier. And someday that guy's going to die. He's going to keep saying. And the audience, which is made up almost entirely out of Dragon Quest diehards, which is a true, it's an unsung segment of the Broadway market. They chuckle every time because they're glad.
It's everybody who was in the end scene of Tar.
Yeah. Basically, by the end of the film, they'll all be dreaming of a future where the composer of Dragon Quest is no longer a war crime denier. And there's going to be a day when there's no denying crimes. While I'm killing slimes, I'm not.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow. Okay. All right. Got it.
Right.
All right. I'm going to take this to my investors. We'll be right back after a QB. The following ad supports the Insert Credit podcast, but is not necessarily endorsed by its individual members. This is the Insert Credit Quick Break. I'm Alex Jaffe, and this week's episode of Insert Credit is sponsored by the Houseflies, a very cool post-punk shoegaze alternative grunge goth rock band, releasing their first full album, Mannequin Deposit, on July 2nd across all platforms. I got to listen to Mannequin Deposit myself and had a very cool time. Right now you're listening to my favorite song off the album and their lead single, She Hums Mozart. Mannequin Deposit will also be available for download or on vinyl at wilhelmsons.com. Check out She Hums Mozart, Mannequin Deposit, or even the Houseflies 2022 EP Glimmer as soon as you're done listening to this episode. In fact, pause the episode, do that now, and chill out with the Houseflies as our musical interlude before we bring you back to the dirtbag. Get buggin'. Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time for us to go spelunking into Carl's Bad Cavern. I take a question for this segment submitted to us at patreon.com/insertcredit, where for mere $1 a month, you can submit your own questions. You can get monthly bonus episodes and other great stuff that you'll find out once you get there. This week's question comes from Ponda, who says, video games with AAA 3D realistic graphics seem to have difficulty animating a character ingesting something through their mouth, eating, drinking, especially smoking, in a way that looks right. What video games do you think have done the best job of this? And do you think it's likely to remain a problem in character animation in the future?
I think it'll get better and easier, but I think the Yakuza games do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I have to imagine it's hard for the two of you to like pay close attention when someone's eating in a game, because I have to imagine there's anxiety that happens when that scene's going on.
It's true.
I'm always like primed for an uncanny valley experience as soon as I see like liquid pouring into a glass.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like, ooh, this is going to get weird.
Like I flip some switches in my head where it's like, okay, like suspension of disbelief. Like let's tweak this. Let's tweak these parameters. Okay, good.
It's video game time.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah, I think the Yakuza games do it pretty well. It is a tough one because it's not like there's an actual liquid or an actual food that's going somewhere. You have to do all kinds of mysterious trickery, and I think the thing that's going to be even harder than that is a character handing another character an object.
Oh yeah.
I think eating is even a little easier because you can very plausibly disappear something.
Yeah.
And that's been eaten or consumed. Like take a bite out, but maybe we didn't really see the bite happen, but we see that the bite has happened, and we're like, oh yeah, our brain fills in the gaps. But when it's like a hand trying to put a ball into this other person's hand and then they grab it, it's like there's so many jiggly physics places for that to go wrong.
Here, take this key. And it's just like the guy's just got his fist just like held straight out over the other guy. And then the guy goes and holds his hand out like he's carrying a dainty little dinner plate. And then they just move their hands away. When they're eating, have you often noticed, first of all, I don't think hyper-realistic graphics captured by a camera make a person look natural while eating. I just think like on a goddamn food TV show, for example, the typical person eats with their whole body. They eat whilst shrugging their shoulders to indicate enthusiasm, and they go through all of these goddamn street mime theatrics. Just about anybody eating food professionally on camera. In video games, all you do is you see this amped up to like 22 out of 11, right? So they're like there will be big shrugs, good old Bambi thumper foot stomps happening for every bite as the 3D model decreases in size, a screen shake, a pulse, right? A guy's got a huge hamburger and it's just like screen is just pulsing as the hamburger transforms into 8 different 3D models of itself. And then the guy does a big theatric stomach rub. So when you say hyper-realistic 3D modern graphics, you're talking about the PS2, I assume. So, right. But, you'll see guys just eating so excitedly.
Peak game design.
We got to go back to the pixel art when a guy just touched a whole turkey and then it was gone. It just
disappears.
The most beautiful sound effect you've ever heard in your life, and the turkey's gone.
I think that's a good
You
way.
don't have to think about him eating it, right?
Yeah. The sound effect sounds like you feel after you eat a nourishing meal rather than the sound of ingesting a turkey.
Exactly.
I'm still fine with just putting the camera behind their head.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine.
And showing
like we're okay with that with like literally every episode of every television show or every movie has like lines that are dubbed in while we're looking at the back of someone's head.
Yeah, and some of the earlier Yakuza games would do like a drink where the camera's focused on the bar. Let's say he's having some whiskey or whatever. Camera's focused on the bar. Glass is relatively center frame, and then he picks it up to drink, and the glass is kind of like his mouth is mostly out of frame, and the drinking is more implied, and then he puts it down, and there's less in it, and that looks like an artistic choice. Because it implication is there, it's all there, but like the focus is supposed to be on the conversation that's happening on this bar, and so the camera's on the bar. I feel like doing stuff like that is totally fine.
It's just cinematic sleight of hand techniques involving your editing and your composition.
Mm-hmm.
What if the animation is important to the gameplay, though? Like if you were playing a hot dog eating contest game.
Well, then you shouldn't make that game. Is the thing, because that's disgusting. Or
again, turn it into full body foot stomps and shrugs and head just like hungry hippoing up and down. And
just think about Sega AM2 while you're doing it.
Super Mario coin sound effects popping off, orchestra hits, Pac-Man bloops, just while the guy's chomping down the hot dogs, and make them big, giant, like balloon animal looking cartoon, shiny, like low polygon hot dogs.
Yeah, what they don't tell you about Joey Chestnut is he hears a 1-up sound effect after every hot dog after the 8th one.
I was on contract with a publisher called Mastiff Games for couple years there, and at one point they were trying to figure out what to do like for a WiiWare game, and they got access to the world competitive eating license. And and they were like, yeah, we're gonna.
It's hot dog eating on the Wii, right?
I think it was all kinds of food, but because
you pitched them a game where you said, "How about you eat the controller and win?" And then they shot you in the chest with a 45 Magnum.
No, I said I can't work on this. Is what I said. I was like, I'm not touching this.
Should have had the idea for the low polygon balloon animal looking Sega AM2 Daytona USA kind of hot dogs where the guy's stomping his foot and shrugging his shoulders. And
that would have been better.
And hungry hippoing his head while he eats. And his jaw gets wider and wider and the hot dogs keep getting bigger and bigger.
Here's something I've been thinking about a little bit lately. Which standard 52 playing card deck game has the best game design?
No.
I just think Texas Hold'em Poker is really good. I don't know.
I worked on a Texas Hold'em poker game, but I don't know how to play it.
Oh, Hold'em's good. I'd take you to the goddamn cleaners, Brandon.
You would, because I don't know what all the poker hands are. I know them generally, but I don't know which are bigger than other ones.
It's about a little bit more than knowing all the hands. But yes, knowing all the hands is
letting you know the degree to which I don't know it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you do need to know. You do, in fact, I don't mean to insinuate that a person can get good at poker not knowing any of the hands. That's not true. You do kind of need to know literally all of them so that you can properly assess probabilities and such when necessary. But
I like solitaire.
Solitaire's all right. Solitaire's all right. It's, you can always reload, restart pretty easy. It's procedurally generated. It's a roguelike.
Because it's procedurally generated, that's why I like it. But so are all of them, basically, because you all get
Is Solitaire a strategy game or is it an awareness game?
No, is the answer to that question. It's Solitaire is something to do with your brain and, I guess, and your eyes. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to try to roast me about
There's
Solitaire.
A little strategy in there.
Yeah. There's a little
strategy in there.
Because you do have to make some choices. And sometimes you make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And then it's your fault for forgetting, how many so-and-sos you've got visible on the field or not. Basically, you're just looking. I think it's more awareness than strategy. Yeah. But it's just the possibility space is just big enough that you can't tic-tac-toe it, Yeah. Tic-tac-toe is not a game. Tic-tac-toe is a personality test for uncovering idiots, right? So it's like Solitaire, the possibility space is kind of crowbarred open just enough that you feel like a rube when you lose, but also it's not always your fault. And also, when it is, it's just kind of like, well, I deserve that.
I'll just do it again.
Yeah, I'll just do it again. And it's fine.
The problem is when you do Solitaire with an actual deck of cards, when you win, they don't all bounce across the world, leaving shadow after images of themselves.
Spin like they around do. And make Celebration cartoon Sesame Street sound effects.
Yeah, they don't do that. And that's
Super Mario coin noises, more up sounds.
What I'm curious about is what makes Hold'em more mechanically interesting than other variants of poker.
That's a really good question.
You like bridge? What about bridge? People like that bridge?
I like Bridga, yeah.
Bridgy.
I like Bridget without a T, as I call it.
Bridge.
I always go right for blackjack in a casino game. I don't know.
Blackjack's hot as heck. Yeah,
I think blackjack's the most fun.
And I think I've been thinking about why that is, and I think it's just nice and simplistic. I think like the statistics technically being for you, like in a perfect game, like there's something kind of compelling about that. And then I think it's kind of a neat like test of patience to be like, okay, do I just stick to the rules and like make money long term, or am I just going to kind of go for it sometimes?
I also think it's more instantaneous than other card games where there's not really that showdown component.
And it's just very simple. Like, you know the ideal rules. Do you want to break them? Yes or no?
Do you want to hit? You want to bust?
And you could say, hit me.
Yeah.
You can also talk about doubling down on a 3-card 11 or whatever.
You get to say a lot more words in that one.
Mm-hmm. I really, really love doubling down.
You can up your luck stat to like 8 and then clean out all of the casinos in New Vegas very easily.
Maybe I will.
Yeah. Maybe I will.
Maybe I will.
I have plenty to say about why Texas Hold'em poker is my personal pick for best poker, but it would get pretty granular pretty quick. But basically, it's good because you only have a couple of cards, which is similar to what Frank likes about blackjack, and you're trying to make a hand with the same community cards as everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got to deal with the same stuff and in different ways, and then you're just either brazenly, casually, or not at all lying to everyone else about how much you believe you can do better than them. And it's very fun when you're playing it with people who are good at it. And I mean, there's other, there's a lot of similar and different poker types, but I've just found Texas Hold'em to be the most exciting to play for longer periods of time.
You ever call it by its formal name, Texas Hold'em?
Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, Texas Hold'em.
I'll tell you what's real fun is writing a novel-length script for a YouTube video where you refer to video games as beat them ups and to shoot them ups.
Yeah.
Or occasionally beat them alls and shoot them alls.
Yeah.
Which is
don't shoot them all.
Quite relieving.
When has a game company returning to its roots most paid off?
Sega.
Capcom.
Sega.
Next question.
Okay.
Now Sega's done Nintendo returned to their roots with the Switch. They made a console that had two detachable controllers, much like the Famicom. And they launched. So the Famicom did not launch with a Mario and a Zelda, but by the time Zelda came out, the Famicom was launched. Launch windows didn't mean the same thing back in the Famicom's era.
Right.
They announced they were making a game console with two little detachable controllers that you can play anywhere, much like a Game Boy. Two detachable controllers, much like a Famicom. The two games they announced are a Goddarn Zelda and a Goddarn Mario, right? And they made the biggest selling Zelda ever, and they made the most underrated Mario ever. It's 2024. It's been 7 years. Let's all start talking about Super Mario Odyssey like we love it. I do.
Yeah.
I thought we did talk about it like we love it.
We did.
You guys did.
You and I did.
I'm just kicking the ball around a little bit more for anybody who wasn't listening back then. Y'all got it. Just get on it. I would say that was profitable for them because those were the hugest. It's the biggest console they've ever made.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about it from a slightly different angle, which is more along the lines of the Sega. Like who was real good, then lost their way the most, and then came back the most.
I think Nintendo lost their way a lot on the N64 and the GameCube, right? And the Virtual Boy. They had some dark times. But anyway.
Yeah, the Wii was kind of a fluke. That wasn't a Nintendo.
But they were still making good video games during that. That was just hardware. Like they were still making good video games during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sega got real squirrely. But I feel like, I guess my pitch for Capcom is that during the 360 era, it just seemed like they had no idea what to do. They made some good games, but then they just did a lot. They were just like casting in all directions. And where Sega to me felt like they were hibernating, like they just weren't doing a good job, but they were just like shrinking down into nothing.
I like a lot of Capcom's stuff from that dark era, but it was weird.
Too, but it was weird.
Like Lost Planet was a bit weird.
I liked Lost Planet. I liked Lost Planet 2. Bionic Commando was weird.
Bionic Commando Rearmed.
All the Western made Dead Risings. All the
Dark Void,
the Strider, like Metroidvania-ish game that they.
That was from 2015 though.
Oh, okay, that's why I forgot.
But I mean,
there was like a weird XBLA one, right?
Yeah, that was 2015, wasn't it? No, that was
It was, I don't know.
That was PS4, Xbox One, wasn't it?
I think I'm talking about another one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But then when they started doing and also I guess what probably writes them out of this equation is they did also have Street Fighter 4 at that time, and that was like solid and roots returning. But it feels like in the PlayStation 4 era, they just got it all the way back, and they could make a better Resident Evil 2 in certain ways than they made the first time. And that's not something that many companies can do. So like the way that they were returning to their roots was very impressive to me because those Resident Evil remakes and the way that Street Fighter 6 is set up, all these things are like really impressive. But it probably is still Sega because they, I don't know, they did Yakuza, they bought Atlas instead of anybody else, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's Sega because they were really they were lost and small for a while, and
lost and small.
Now they're back and big. So
back and big. Well, okay, so I'm still thinking it's Nintendo because the Wii was Nintendo being like, here's Wii Sports. The DS was Nintendo being like, here's brain training. You can do crazy stuff with games. Here's Wii Sports. You can get grandma off the sofa. Here's Wii Fit. Here's Wii Music.
And then switches Zelda and Mario again.
Well, yeah, and then the Wii U quadruples down even further on here's some weird stuff. And then people were like, oh, what's going on, guys? And then finally they're like, here's Zelda, and it's kind of a weird one, and it's going to remind you of playing Zelda as a tiny child because it's going to remind you of Zelda 1. It's mysterious, and it's full of secrets and quirks, and it doesn't explain itself super well, and you're going to love it. And it's just completely different. I mean, it is a game by the people who made the original Zelda, Zelda 2, and Metroid. And it's, it's 40 years later, right? You know? Not 40 years, it's 30 years later. It was 30 years after all those, and it's like, we're back. And I feel like that was, in my opinion, that's the answer.
All right.
But I mean, what do I know?
I think with that, it's time to go on to our lightning round. This week we're playing Soda Jerk, which is basically our lightning roundified of video games, where it's all on a theme. This week we're doing car manufacturers. So I'm going to start by asking you, what's the Toyota of video games?
Oh, they're just very reliable.
Yeah.
They've had some good, cool race cars, nice aesthetics.
Is that just a first-party Nintendo game?
Maybe. I just want to make sure Toyota is going to be different from all of its sub-brands, right?
Lexus and such.
We're not going to get Lexus.
These are all top-level manufacturers. I'm not doing sub-brands.
Oh, so I have to consider Lexus while I consider Toyota then?
Well, consider Gran Turismo the Lexus of Sony or something like that, right?
Yeah, I would prefer more granularity myself, but
well, Toyota used to make a bunch of really cool, sweet-looking cars, your Celicas and Supras, and now they make some modern versions of some of those, but their glory days are quite rooted in the past, and today's all about safety. I think it's Sony.
Sure.
Okay. I think the modern BMW Supra is basically a Horizon Zero Dawn of cars. So if I had to go all the way there,
what is the Volkswagen of video games?
Volkswagen. So for a long time, Volkswagen was like known for part interchangeability and also reliability, but also there's also Nazi origins that we have to take into account. So I don't know. I think we might have to ignore that part, maybe for the video game thing, unless I can. So part interoperability is what I'm going to try to go with. So I'm going to say PC Engine.
Ooh.
I'm going to say PC Engine is the Volkswagen because of that, and because it's like one of those things that's small and just works. So that's my bid for Volkswagen's PC Engine.
Having gone to college in the Midwest around the time every single guy who was studying graphic design wanted a silver Jetta, I think of Volkswagen as like the Res, like the whatever, like a safe. Tetsuya Mizuguchi is the Volkswagen of video game developers, in my opinion.
That's a good answer.
That's all I got. I could do.
What's the Honda of video games?
Honda.
I think it's Sega because the Honda car culture out here was all, mods and stuff, and you can do like whatever weird nonsense you want. And then Honda got kind of like boring and safe, and it sort of felt like Honda was more of an idea than an actual car manufacturer to me for quite some time, though they still do them. And the stuff they do now is like more straight, still kind of reliable.
Which 3D Sonic game is, which Honda car is the 3D Sonic game of cars? Like the CR-V?
Yeah, I think
they've got some ugly modern cars that are nonetheless reliable and fuel efficient and whatever. But they've got
might
some.
Be the CR-V.
They've got some real load the family up and head to the mall sort of vehicles now that are kind of grotesque.
They do, yeah. Yeah, the Honda Frontier is not a real car, but I could imagine that being the Sonic
But you
Frontier.
get I don't know how this works out, but I feel like Sega Rally is somehow like the Honda Civic Si of video games. It doesn't make any sense. You figure it would be something else. But
I'd buy it.
The 1990s, late 90s Civic Si. Heck of a car.
We'll do two more. What's the Hyundai of video games?
So Hyundai that's like a manufacturer that people used to kind of make fun of, but now is more bleeding edge than many others. And like BMW, for example, keeps stealing their visual designs.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna say it's Nexon. I'm gonna say it's Nexon.
I was going to say it's board games.
Oh, that could be board games.
Because it's something that was long just kind of considered, you know, sort of a whatever thing. But now it's like all the best stuff in all the most popular video games, you know, like non-Minecraft games. Among Us, for example. Among Us is a very slow, thoughtful, very deeply invested attempt to take the best stuff about a couple of board games and turn it into an essentially video game experience.
And Werewolf, yeah.
Yeah, Werewolf, yeah. So, you know, board games.
Yeah, I buy that.
I don't know. That could be a thing because Hyundai's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like.
Even though you drove a Hyundai to get here, and I drove an $80,000 BMW.
Okay, fine. Our last one. What's the BMW of video games?
All right, so this is something that is really expensive, but most of them break down real easy. And,
Whoa! Okay, I mean, it's really expensive, but having rented several of them, I didn't even ask for it, by the way. I say I want to rent a car. They ask, you want to pay a couple dollars extra? I say, okay. They give me a beam, I take it. They give me a beam dub.
Yeah. Well, there's good ones and bad ones.
They're really good cars to drive.
Yeah,
but the ones I've driven have all been really nice. Incredulously luxurious experience, which angers you.
In California,
they're the worst drivers.
The cars you see getting towed from the roadside the most are BMWs. And
I think it's because they commit crimes, because they're being driven by these rich boys who think they can get away with stuff. You know that, like, the shoulder on the way across the Bay Bridge to Oakland, like, dudes in BMWs, I would sit there just going apoplectic at dudes in always BMWs using the shoulder around the goddarn turn lane, the exit lane, to get themselves all the way up to the point of no return, and then just like slowly nose themselves in. And it was always dudes in BMWs, worst goddarn drivers. They're evil, but they're beautiful cars to drive.
And it's interesting because the BMW used to be the car that would try to run you down in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
But now it's a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So things have shifted a little bit.
Used to be the sort of car that would honk at you for crossing the street in New York while you have a green light and he's trying to turn left on red. Happened to me more than 12 times. Getting honked at by a BMW who does not have the right to turn.
Wait, but who is it? BMW.
It's I don't know.
David Cage.
Online. No, it's not David Cage. Online, I don't know.
That's a wire with the David Cage reference.
It's Fortnite. It's Fortnite.
It's Fortnite. Now's the time for our recommendations. Brandon, you won the episode. Congratulations, Brandon.
Hooray.
You get to come up with a question at the top of next show. For now,
even though I wrote lyrics for a song about denying war crimes and killing slimes,
that was pretty good, and I factored that into my ratings. But
right, I don't want to. Yeah.
But Brandon came out slightly ahead in my personal rubric here. So is now a good time to ask you folks for recommendations for our audience? And if so, please keep it short.
Well, I guess I'll do a weird, kind of depressing one. So, the reason I've been in and out of this episode is I don't know if people will hear that, or I was taking phone calls from hospitals and things. I don't really like to get into my personal stuff too much, but I have one parent who is recovering from cancer, not very well, who is being caretook by the other parent who then got a brain aneurysm. So you got two people who need help and can't do anything. And that's a big situation that is going to continue to be dealt with by me. So my recommendation to you, while you are able-bodied, for you or your parents or whomever, is to get a DNR, which is a Do Not Resuscitate document that says what you want in case you're incapacitated? Do you want like invasive life-saving procedures that might break your
living will,
ribs, etc.? So that people know what to do if they find you incapacitated. Get what's called a 5 wishes document, which also it gives some of that information. It also says who can make medical decisions for you if you are incapable of doing so yourself. If you have someone you can trust to do that. Also, make sure someone you can trust can access your medical records. Obviously, you have to really, really trust them. But that is important because otherwise they can't talk to you. You could also give someone you trust power of attorney. It's a lot of things, but look into those things while you're healthy and sound of mind, and don't leave it until you need it, because at that point it's very difficult to deal with. So that is my recommendation for you and possibly your parents.
The heavy one.
I mean, I'll extend that to willing your assets as well. In my line of work, I have more than once encountered really unfortunate problems where someone might have left their family with a giant video game collection and a mountain of debt, and that's not a nice thing to do to your family.
Yeah.
So, or even just in general, I've known people who just have to deal with, the belongings of their parents or whatever that weren't willed. And it's not a good situation for anyone to be in. So look into that if you are someone who might die one day.
Yeah, if you're one of those. My mom did that while she was like in her 50s. And I was like, come on, Mom. Like, you don't need to be doing this.
Do it in your 30s.
Yeah, because
you can get away with your 20s, though. I don't care.
Because it's done now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have to worry about that if she gets into that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, that's the thing. Sorry for depressing everybody.
My overall recommendation that can be interpreted by intelligent people is recognize your mortality and live your life knowing that it's not forever.
Mm-hmm. But don't think about it all the time.
I would recommend just not owning a lot of stuff is what I would
recommend.
That
too.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, yeah. I would say be mindful of the mess you leave for others. That's my general tip.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking about
that. As Sega's X-Men for the Sega Genesis says at the end of its credits, when you roll credits, leave the world in better condition than you found it.
It's a great note to end on.
Yeah, I'm looking around the room at all this stuff I got. And it's like, oh man, someone's got to deal with this.
Well, at Konami's X-Men for the arcade at the end says, buy lots of video games. So
okay, well, good.
So you're all right there.
Okay. All right.
Well, if you enjoyed this or any episode of Insert Credit, please rate and review our show wherever and however you can. I read all of those, and when I get a new one, it sparks joy within me. And it helps us with the various algorithms to get it in front of more people. You could also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit to pay most people involved here. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or personal message, you could do that by contacting me at show@insertcredit.com. You could also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find us on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn, with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And we're absolving crimes and killing slimes.
Nice.
Kept hearing a sound for the last 10 minutes. It was driving me insane. And I was like, what is that? And it's Mimsy using a hairdryer intermittently in the bedroom. Just blasting hair.